if a single question from a mysterious alien girl could change everything you thought you knew about connection, curiosity, and the universe itself? In a galaxy where cultures collide and hearts find each other across the stars, one human stumbles into a moment that turns awkward confusion into something truly unforgettable. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe to this channel and show a thumbs up by liking the video. Now, let's dive into this wonderful story that will stir your imagination and touch your heart. The first thing Joran noticed when he stepped off the shuttle was the light. Vivid, moving, alive. The world of Miravel Station seemed to glow from within. Colors swirled in the air like mist, and every building shimmered as if it had been painted with stardust. Joran stood at the edge of the market square, wide-eyed and frozen, his travel bag hanging loosely from one hand. He had seen pictures before, read about this interstellar hub known for its culture and trade, but nothing had prepared him for the overwhelming beauty and chaos in front of him. He took a step forward, and the sounds rushed at him all at once. Chattering voices in dozens of alien languages, music from instruments he couldn't even name, the crackling sizzle of food cooking on open flames, and the soft hum of lights dancing overhead. It was as if the entire galaxy had squeezed itself into one sprawling marketplace. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved around him. Some floated, others walked on multiple legs. Some shimmered with scales, others covered in feathers or robes that sparkled like fireflies. Joran, in his plain earth clothes and worn-out boots, felt like a grain of sand in a universe-sized ocean. Trying not to look too out of place, he took out the small map he'd downloaded to his communicator. It buzzed weakly, the signal flickering. The symbols made no sense to him. He turned the map around a few times, frowned, and then shoved it back into his jacket pocket with a sigh. "Just walk. Blend in," he muttered. His stomach churned. Not from fear exactly, but from the feeling of being utterly unprepared. A vendor waved at him enthusiastically from a nearby stall. The woman, or at least Joran assumed she was female, had bright orange skin and 3 arms. She held out something that looked like a glowing cucumber wrapped in purple leaves. "Energy fruit. Make humans strong," she called with a wide, toothy grin. Joran chuckled nervously and shook his head. "No, thank you." He backed away carefully, bumping into what felt like a solid wall. He turned quickly and saw it was not a wall at all, but a massive being that looked part stone, part machine. The creature didn't react, simply kept walking with slow, earth-shaking steps. As Joran weaved his way deeper into the crowd, he passed a fountain that spilled glowing water into a crystal pool. Children, of some species, he couldn't tell, which splashed and laughed as their caregivers watched nearby. The air smelled of spices, smoke, and something sweet that reminded him of cinnamon and fresh rain. He began to relax a little, soaking in the atmosphere. Despite feeling completely out of place, there was something magical here, something that whispered, "Stay, look closer. Something important is waiting." Then he heard it. A voice rose from somewhere, in the distance, light and full of emotion. It wasn't just singing, it was something deeper. The melody was slow and haunting, like wind moving through the branches of a tree. Joran followed the sound, drawn like a moth to flame. As he pushed, through the crowd the noise of the market softened and the music grew clearer. Finally he reached a circular plaza where a makeshift stage had been set up. There she stood. An alien girl stood alone at the center, bathed in soft purple light. Her skin was a blend of teal and sky blue, smooth and slightly glowing. Long silver. Hair flowed around her shoulders like melted moonlight, and her eyes were golden, so bright they almost hurt to look at. She sang without effort, her voice weaving a story he didn't understand but somehow felt in his chest. The audience was silent, captivated. Even the stall vendors nearby had stopped what they were doing to listen. Joran couldn't move. His heart beat faster as if the song had reached inside and pressed a forgotten button. Her expression was calm but powerful, like she was letting a storm pass through her and gifting its beauty to the world. He didn't know who she was or where she came from, but he felt like he had been waiting to hear that voice his whole life. As the song reached its highest note, Joran took a step back, overcome by emotion. and crashed into someone behind him. "Watch where you're going, outsider," a deep voice growled. Joren spun around, eyes wide, and stared up at a towering alien figure with dark blue skin and massive arms crossed over its chest. It had horns curled back from its head and eyes that glowed faintly red. The crowd parted, slightly sensing tension. Sorry," Joren stammered, his face flushing red. He offered a quick, nervous smile and tried to step aside, but the towering figure didn't move. For a moment it felt like this was it, his first trip off Earth, and he was about to get flattened over a clumsy mistake. But then, a soft laugh rang out from the stage. The singer had stopped. She was looking right at him. Her gaze met Joren's, and she smiled. Not mockingly, but gently, like someone seeing a child trying to swim for the first time. Then she took a few steps forward, her voice still carrying the power of her song even as she spoke. "It's all right," she said. And her words rang out clear and kind. "He's just new." The tension dissolved instantly. The crowd began to stir again, and the large alien grunted and moved along. Joren, stunned, looked back at the girl who had just saved him with a few words. He had no idea who she was, but something told him this was just the beginning. The crowd slowly returned to its usual rhythm, but Joren stood frozen, his heart thudding like it wanted to jump out of his chest. The girl with the glowing skin and silver hair had defended him, in front of everyone. He hadn't even spoken to her, yet she had smiled at him like they were old friends. As she stepped down from the stage, the soft lights above caught her hair, making it shimmer like strands of starlight. She moved with the grace of someone who belonged to a world far more elegant than his own. Before he could think of something clever to say, she was standing in front of him. Up close, her eyes were even brighter, deep golden pools that seemed to hold entire stories. "You walk funny," she said suddenly, tilting her head curiously. "Do all humans move like that?" Joren blinked, caught off guard. I guess I mean we have legs, that's how we walk." She nodded slowly, her expression completely serious. "Yes, I've noticed. Your species relies heavily on those bendy sticks. Very awkward. Are they difficult to control?" At that, Joren let out a surprised laugh. "Bendy sticks? You mean my legs?" "Yes," she said with a nod. "I didn't mean to offend. I simply find them fascinating." That broke the last bit of nervousness inside him. "Well, they usually work fine, except when I crash into angry space giants. Then they become a problem." She smiled, the corners of her mouth curving gently. "Ah, so it wasn't just me." He did look ready to stomp. "Yeah, I thought I was about to be turned into human jam," Joren said with a chuckle. "Thanks for saving me, by the way. I'm Joren." "Saleya," she replied. "And you're welcome, Joren the human who walks funny." He grinned. "I'll accept the title. It's fair." They began to walk together through the glowing streets of Miravel Station, weaving between floating stalls and strange sculptures that shifted color when touched. Saleya pointed out a few market delicacies along the way, some that looked like living crystals, others that wriggled slightly in their bowls. Joren tried not to stare too much at the ones that blinked back at him. "You should try something," she said, leading him to a small stand with fruits that pulsed with soft light. "These are called cinari. They're sweet, and they hum when you bite them." "They what now?" She handed him one before he could protest. The fruit felt warm in his hand, and sure enough, it gave off a faint vibration like a cat purring. "Just bite it." "Okay, but if I grow wings or something, I'm blaming you." He took a bite, and the inside was soft and cool, with a tangy sweetness that filled his mouth. As promised, the fruit hummed gently like a distant song. He raised his eyebrows in surprise. "Okay, that's actually really good." Saleya nodded proudly. "Told you." They wandered on, laughing and trying small bites of everything. Joren offered her a taste of one treat that looked like a marshmallow with antennae, and she bravely took a bite before making a face and spitting it into a napkin. "That one tastes like regret." He laughed so hard he almost dropped his half-eaten sanary. Regret with a hint of old socks. As the evening went on, Their playful teasing turned into real conversation. Saleha told him how she had grown up surrounded by music. On her world, singing wasn't just entertainment. It was how people shared memories. Stories were passed down through songs. Feelings were sung instead of spoken. And young ones learned to sing before they learned to speak. Joran listened, fascinated. That explains why your voice hits so hard. It's like more than just notes, it's alive. Saleha gave him a thoughtful look. That's the idea. But sometimes I wonder if people only see the performance. They forget there's a person behind the voice. He understood that. On Earth we have that too. People think if you smile, you're happy. If you do something well, that's all you should ever do. It gets exhausting. For a moment they walked in silence. Around them the lights of the market twinkled like fireflies. A gentle breeze carried the smell of spiced pastries and the soft notes of another musician playing in the distance. "Do you ever feel like you're not sure where you belong?" Saleha asked quietly. "All the time," Joran replied. "But maybe we don't have to belong everywhere. Maybe we just need to find one place or one person where we feel seen." She looked at him, something soft and searching in her gaze. "That's a very human thing to say. I'll take that as a compliment." She laughed again, the sound warm and full of light. "You should. You humans are strange, but you have heart." They passed a booth filled with glowing necklaces and rings that hovered in the air like bubbles. Saleha stopped and picked up one, thin and silver with a small blue stone. She held it out to him. "A gift," she said simply. Joran hesitated. "I didn't get you anything." "You gave me laughter," she said. "That's rare around here." He took the bracelet and slipped it on, touched by the gesture. "Thank you." They sat on the edge of a low wall overlooking the marketplace, their legs swinging freely. The stars above blinked slowly into view, and for once Joran didn't feel out of place. With Saleha beside him, the universe didn't feel so big or so lonely. Later that night, the marketplace had quieted down. The light still shimmered in soft waves across the rooftops, and music still drifted here and there, but the crowds had thinned. Joran sat alone on a bench near the crystal fountain, rolling the silver bracelet between his fingers. The bracelet that Saleha had given him. He couldn't stop thinking about her laugh, the way she had spoken about singing, and the way she looked at the stars like they were old friends. He wondered if she had already left the station. Performers like her probably didn't stay long in one place. He sighed and leaned back, watching the faint mist swirl around the glowing water. The night felt colder now, even though the air hadn't changed. He didn't regret meeting her. It had been the most amazing part of his trip. But he did regret not saying more. He had only scratched the surface of who she was, and now she might be gone just like that. As if summoned by his thoughts, he heard a soft voice behind him. "Still thinking about legs and fruit?" He turned, surprised and relieved, to see Saleha standing there, smiling in the dim light. Her silver hair was tied back now, and she wore a soft cloak over her usual flowing clothes. She looked different, quieter somehow, but still completely herself. "You came back," he said, standing quickly. "I never left," she replied. "I just needed space after the crowd. Singing drains me sometimes." "I get that," Joran said, then paused. "Actually, I don't, but I'm glad you're here." She smiled and sat down beside him, tucking her legs beneath her. "You said earlier that humans sometimes feel like they have to smile even when they're not happy. I think I do that too, in my own way." Joran looked at her, surprised. "You? But when you sing, it's like, I don't know, you look so powerful, like nothing could ever touch you." "That's what people want to see," Saleha said softly. "A voice that never breaks, a smile that never fades. I've trained for that since I was a child, but it gets hard pretending I'm only what people hear. I want someone to see more than just the performance." "I see you," Joran said without thinking. "Not just the singer or the girl on the stage. I see someone who's curious, kind, and way too interested in legs." That made her laugh, and he joined in, the tension between them easing into something warm and natural. After a moment, she said, "I've been singing all my life. But I'm not sure I've ever really spoken with someone like this, Joran shrugged. Maybe you've been singing to the wrong people. Or maybe I just needed the right listener, she replied. They sat in silence for a while, watching as a group of children chased small, glowing orbs that floated just above the ground. Somewhere in the distance, a slow melody began to play, soft, low, and peaceful. Saleya turned toward him. Tell me something about your world. Earth? He asked. It's loud, messy, beautiful in a very human way. What do humans do when they're not working or walking awkwardly? Joran smiled. We tell stories. We listen to music. We sit in parks and talk for hours. Sometimes we stare at the sky and wonder what else is out there. Sounds nice, she said. Do you ever sing? Not unless I want to scare someone away. Saleya laughed again, and then her face softened. Do you miss it? Earth? He thought for a moment. Sometimes. But I think I was always looking for something beyond it. I just didn't know what. Maybe it's not a place I'm looking for. Maybe it's a feeling, like this. Saleya's golden eyes met his. Like sitting here with a stranger from another world? Exactly. She leaned her head against his shoulder just for a moment. You don't feel like a stranger. That simple sentence settled something inside him. He didn't feel like a stranger anymore either. Not in this moment, not with her beside him. The stars above blinked silently, the universe spinning on. But here, between the soft music and the glow of the fountain, it felt like time had slowed down. Saleya sat up again, brushing her hair behind her ear. Tomorrow I have to leave for a performance in the central city. It's part of a tour. Joran nodded, trying not to let disappointment show. Of course, that makes sense. But I don't want this to end, she said, voice quiet. Then maybe it doesn't have to, Joran offered. Maybe we just meet again. Somewhere down the line. Somewhere quieter. Saleya looked at him, something unreadable in her gaze. Then she reached out and gently tapped the bracelet on his wrist. Keep this. When you look at it, remember that there's a place in the stars where a girl sings not just for the crowd, but for you. Joran smiled, though his chest ached. And when you sing, remember the human who tried to walk with grace and tripped over his own feet. I will, she said with a smile. They stood, unsure of how to say goodbye. But maybe this wasn't a goodbye, not really. Just a pause in a song they both wanted to hear again. As Saleya walked away, her silhouette fading into the starlit mist, Joran stayed behind, hand resting over the bracelet. More than a song, he thought. She was more than a song, and somehow so was he. Joran stayed at Miravel Station longer than he had planned. Each day he told himself it was just one more night, one more walk through the glowing streets, one more chance to catch a glimpse of Saleya. But days turned into a quiet stretch of time where nothing happened and yet everything felt different. The marketplace still sang with colors and sound, but without her beside him, it felt quieter somehow. He went through the motions, eating, exploring, talking to vendors, but a part of him was always listening for that voice again, that melody that had once wrapped around him like light. He visited the fountain often. That was where they had talked, where she had laughed and leaned against his shoulder. It had only been a short time, but she had left something behind in him. A sense of being known, of being heard in a world that moved too fast. The silver bracelet she gave him never left his wrist. Sometimes, when he held it in his fingers, he could almost hear her laugh again. He didn't know if she was thinking of him too, or if he had just been a small stop on a long road she was always meant to travel. One evening he wandered past the plaza where they'd first met. The stage was empty, the lights dimmed, and the usual hum of the crowd felt softer. He kept walking, not sure where he was going. The stars above shone brighter than usual, spreading across the sky like spilled paint. He followed the path that led toward the upper terraces of the station, an area less crowded and filled with quiet corners and views of the galaxy beyond. It was peaceful there. It helped him think. As he rounded a curve near a stone bench, shaped like a crescent moon, he heard something, a voice, faint but familiar, carried by the wind. He stopped, heart suddenly racing. Slowly, he stepped closer to the edge of the terrace, peering down into the plaza below. There she was. Saleya stood alone, singing softly to herself. No stage, no audience, just her and the stars. Her silver hair moved gently in the breeze, and her eyes were closed as her voice drifted up like a whisper of wind through trees. It was a simple song, quiet and full of emotion. Joran didn't understand the words, but he didn't need to. He felt it. The longing, the hope, the gentle sadness beneath it all. He didn't move right away. He just watched her, afraid that if he stepped forward, the moment might disappear like smoke. But then she opened her eyes and looked up directly at him. A smile broke across her face, one so genuine and bright it warmed his entire body. "You waited," she said as he walked toward her. "I didn't know what else to do," he replied. They stood in silence for a moment, smiling like fools who had missed something important and were just now realizing they had found it again. Saleya took his hand, and together they walked through the quiet paths of the upper terrace. No words were needed just yet. The comfort of being near each other again was enough. After a while, they sat on a ledge that overlooked the stars. The galaxy stretched before them in colors that shifted and shimmered, and the lights of distant ships blinked like fireflies across the void. "I didn't plan to return so soon," Saleya said softly, "but something didn't feel right. I thought about you more than I expected." "I thought about you every day," Joran admitted. "I wasn't sure if that was foolish or hopeful." "It was both," she said with a quiet smile. "But sometimes foolishness leads us to what matters." They talked until the stars moved across the sky. They shared more stories about Earth, about her people, about the dreams they had never spoken aloud before. Joran told her he'd never felt more like himself than when he was with her. Saleya admitted that singing without expectation, just for the joy of it, felt new and freeing. Then, without warning, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small, glowing stone. "This is called a Mirren crystal," she said. "It stores light. We use it to mark moments we want to remember." She placed it in his hand. "Now it holds this night." Joran stared at the stone, feeling the quiet hum of energy inside it. "I don't have anything to give you." "You already did," she replied. "You reminded me I am more than my voice, that I can be heard for who I am." They sat quietly for a while longer, watching the stars as the station drifted through space. Time didn't feel so heavy anymore. It didn't matter if they had tomorrow or next week. What mattered was this, the connection they had built, the understanding they had shared. Before they parted again, Joran turned to her and said, "If I ever get lost, I'll follow the sound of your song." Saleya smiled and whispered, "And I'll leave a path made of stars." And just like that, two souls from different worlds understood something very simple. Love wasn't always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it was quiet, like a walk beneath the stars, a voice in the dark, or a bracelet worn with care. It wasn't about how long they had. It was about what they made of the time they shared. And in that moment, neither of them felt alone in the universe.